I think it's important just to shift your perspective sometimes. And so for me, it's about getting out, surrounding myself with other entrepreneurs who are smarter than I am. I want to be in a room where I'm not the smartest person. And by doing that, it really helps me to shift my focus and shift my perspective. Just like this amazing view behind me, from the other side, you couldn't see this. And the same thing happens in my business. I don't often see the problems, the challenges, until I have another perspective. So for me, and probably for you, one of the easiest ways to shift your perspective is to surround yourself with people who are smarter, who have different experience from different industries than you or I do, and get them to help you shift your perspective about what's possible for you in your business. So we just got settled in here. It's a little after 8 o'clock California time. I'm pretty tired, been up since about 2 this morning California time, and excited about tomorrow. We got into town and they have a huge festival going on, so there's lots of people everywhere. The city is literally packed. About to head to bed and get some good rest for tomorrow. Got a lot to learn. So it's the morning of the mastermind and excited to come here and learn. And there's 3 questions that I've learned to ask myself before I go into an event like this or before I go meet with a coach. The very first question is, where am I currently at? Where's my business currently at? Second question is, where did I expect to be by this point? And the third most important question, which is actually a 2-part question, is what is the gap? In other words, what's the difference between where I am and where I thought I would be? And the second part of that question is, what caused the gap, or what caused the difference between where I thought I would be and where I'm at today? So I'm going to try to figure out how to close that gap. Just finished up the first day mastermind, came down here to the pier to grab some dinner and to really let everything sink in. It was a full day, a lot of content, a lot of great conversation. And going into the event, I knew that there was a gap, right? There's a gap between where I'm at and where I want to be, but really didn't understand how big that gap was, how deep the gap is, until you get in a room full of entrepreneurs like the room this afternoon. I mean, just entrepreneurs from around the world, very, very successful. And the beauty of it is they bring a different perspective. So they give me a view of my business that I can't simply see. I just don't have the right lens. I don't have the right perspective to see it. So I'm gonna grab some dinner and just let everything sink in. A little bit later, I'll come back and I'll share a few of the things that we learned today with you. I think you'll find them valuable. I want to give you a quick recap of what my key takeaways from yesterday were. So yesterday morning I talked about the gap and what the gap is and why the gap's important for you and for me in our journey. And so one of the most important lessons that I took away from the meeting yesterday was that no matter where you're at in your entrepreneurial journey, so whether you're just starting or whether you've been in business for 10, 15, 20 years, the gap never goes away. Right? The gap always changes and the gap always moves, but it never goes away. So my key takeaway from yesterday was really learning to live in the gap, right? Just embrace the fact that I'm gonna be in the gap. And then 2, just learning to love the gap. It's part of the process. It's part of this journey of being an entrepreneur. And so I would encourage you to not get frustrated by the fact you haven't reached the goals that you set for your business, for your organization, or even for yourself. Instead, that you would use that as good positive tension or good positive stress in your journey, right? And that you'll enjoy that part of the process. And just know that no matter where you are in the process, the gap's not gonna go away. You know, just because you've got a few employees now and you've got all these problems maybe around your employees, that, you know, if you get to 20, if you get to 40, you get to 100 employees, those problems don't go away. But as a good friend of mine who owns Zingerman's Deli says, the more successful you get, the better problems you get. The problems don't go away, it's just you get better problems, right? And bigger problems often. And so I would encourage you to, 1, learn to love the gap, and 2, to accept the fact that you're gonna live in the gap your entire entrepreneurial journey. So that's what I would encourage you to do. It's very encouraging for me to hear that, you know, knowing that you're never gonna arrive at the destination. It's always gonna be about this journey and this process. I'm about to head up to day 2, and at the end of the day, what I'll do is I'll do you another quick recap video and just explain to you my key takeaways from these couple of days. I really think some of these insights and ideas can be beneficial to you as much as they've been beneficial to me on my journey. So just wrapped up day 2 at the Mastermind, and man, I'm super excited to go back now and start implementing some of what I've learned, some of the key takeaways from this event. And I want to take a minute just to share a couple of those key takeaways because I really think they could be beneficial to you. I know they've been beneficial to me in my journey and in this process. The first takeaway is understanding your gap, right? Understanding what your current gap looks like, how you got into the gap, and what it's going to take to move you through that gap before you start looking at creating a different gap, right? Like we talked about this morning, your problems don't go away, you just get better problems as you grow. So the first key takeaway is, you know, understanding your gap, figuring out what your gap is. The next key takeaway is always surround yourself with people who give you a different perspective from the perspective you have. So when you go to get business advice from people, be careful that you're not going to the same circle of friends or the same peers that you always go to. Go to people from outside the industry, people from outside your sphere of influence, those people who can have tremendous impact or influence on your business and give you a different perspective. And then the final takeaway would be that you need to get in a group that gives you candid, honest, real feedback, right? So it doesn't matter if you're in a group that's outside your industry, it doesn't matter if you're in a group that's inside your industry. If they're not giving you candid feedback, then you're really not getting the feedback that you need or necessarily want in your business. Now, the thing is, candid feedback hurts, right? The truth hurts sometimes. We don't want to hear all the things we should be doing or could be doing differently. But that's what you need. That's what I desperately need. And that's why I'm on this journey and I'm on this path building my business. It's not about a destination. It's not about a certain revenue figure or a certain profit margin. It's about the journey. It's about the lives that we impact. It's the lives that my business impacts, the lives that you impact, and the difference that you can make in the world because of that. So don't be afraid of the gap. Learn to live in the gap. Learn to love the gap. Thanks again for joining me on this journey. Hope it's been beneficial.